Margaret stood at the edge of the community center's gym, watching younger people effortlessly lift weights and sprint on treadmills. At 52, she felt invisible. Her knees ached, her back protested every morning, and the mirror showed someone she barely recognized. Just 5 years ago, she'd been vibrant, energetic. Now, climbing stairs left her breathless. "First time here." A woman's voice startled her from behind. Margaret turned to find a silver-haired woman in athletic wear, her posture straight as an arrow, eyes bright with energy. She looked about 60 but moved like someone decades younger. Yes. I'm not sure I belong here," Margaret admitted. The woman laughed warmly. "I'm Sophia. And trust me, I felt exactly the same way 7 years ago when I walked through these doors at 55. Thought my best years were behind me." "What changed?" Margaret asked, curious despite herself. 3 exercises. Just 3. They transformed everything. Sophia gestured toward the corner where mats were laid out. "Have coffee with me after my session. I'll tell you my story." An hour later, Margaret watched in amazement as Sophia completed her workout with fluid grace. Over coffee, Sophia began her tale. 7 years ago, I couldn't touch my toes. I'd given up on feeling young. My doctor said my bone density was declining, my balance was poor, and I was headed for serious problems. That's when I met James, a trainer who specialized in working with people over 50. Sophia pulled out her phone, showing before and after photos. The transformation was remarkable. "James taught me something crucial. After 50, we don't need to exercise like we're 25. We need smarter exercises that address what our bodies actually need." He introduced me to the Holy Trinity for staying young, 3 types of exercises that target the real issues of aging. Margaret leaned forward, intrigued. "The first is strength training, but not what you think. The second is balance work that most people completely ignore. And the third is mobility training that literally turns back the clock on how your body moves." The biggest mistake people make after 50 is avoiding weights, Sophia explained. They think it's dangerous or unnecessary. But muscle loss is one of the main reasons we feel old. After 30, we lose 3 to 8% of muscle mass per decade. By 50, it accelerates. She described how James had started her with basic movements. "We didn't do complicated routines. We focused on exercises that mimicked real-life squats for getting out of chairs, deadlifts for picking things up safely, presses for putting items on shelves." Margaret listened as Sophia explained the foundational exercise, the squat. "Squats are magic for people over 50, Sophia said passionately. They strengthen your legs, protect your knees, improve your balance, and maintain your independence. Think about it every time you stand up from a chair, get out of a car, or use the bathroom, you're squatting." Sophia described her progression. She'd started with chair squats, simply sitting and standing from a chair repeatedly, focusing on control. After 2 weeks, she could do 3 sets of 10. Then she graduated to bodyweight squats, holding onto a wall for balance. Within 3 months, I was doing goblet squats with a dumbbell. My legs felt strong again. I could hike with my grandchildren without my niece screaming. I could carry groceries without fear. But Sophia emphasized the key wasn't just doing squats, it was doing them correctly. Form matters more than reps or weight. James taught me to keep my chest up, push through my heels, and never let my knees cave inward. He said quality over quantity became my mantra. She also mentioned variations, wall squats for building endurance, split squats for balance, and eventually, adding resistance bands for extra challenge. The beautiful thing about strength training after 50 is that your muscles still respond. Studies show people in their 70s and 80s can still build significant strength. You're never too old to start. Margaret felt a spark of hope. "What about the other 2 exercises?" Sophia's expression grew serious. "This one might save your life. Falls are the leading cause of injury for people over 65. But balance doesn't suddenly disappear at 65, it declines gradually starting in our 40s. Most people don't notice until it's a problem." She explained how James had tested her balance on day 1. "I couldn't stand on one leg for more than 5 seconds. I was shocked. I thought my balance was fine because I hadn't fallen. But balance is like a bank account, you want to build it up before you need it." The key balance exercise Sophia learned was deceptively simple: single leg stands. Start by standing near a wall or counter for safety. Lift one foot just a few inches off the ground. Try to hold for 30 seconds. Most people over 50 can't do it initially, and that's okay. That's why we practice. Sophia described her journey with balance training. The first week was humbling. She could barely manage 10 seconds without wobbling frantically. But she practiced daily, making it part of her routine while brushing her teeth or waiting for coffee to brew. Within a month, I could hold 30 seconds easily. Then James progressed me to eyes closed balance, much harder but incredibly effective. Then standing on unstable surfaces like a folded towel or balance pad. She also mentioned heel-to-toe walking, where you walk in a straight line placing one foot directly in front of the other, like walking a tightrope. These exercises strengthen the small stabilizer muscles in your ankles and feet. They improve proprioception, your body's awareness of where it is in space. This is what deteriorates with age, making us unsteady.
Sophia shared a powerful story. 6 months into my training, I was hiking and stepped on loose gravel. My ankle rolled, but my body instantly corrected. I stayed upright. The old me would have fallen and probably broken something. That moment made me realize these exercises weren't just fitness, they were life insurance. She emphasized consistency over intensity. 5 minutes daily beats an hour once a week. Your nervous system needs regular reminders. This is the one that made me feel young again, Sophia said, her eyes lighting up. Mobility is different from flexibility. It's about moving your joints through their full range of motion with control. After 50, we tend to move less and less, and our bodies adapt by getting stiffer. She described the revelation of her first mobility assessment. James had me do simple movements: reach overhead, rotate my spine, move my hips. I was shocked at how limited I'd become. I couldn't reach straight overhead without arching my back excessively. I couldn't look over my shoulder without turning my whole body. The cornerstone mobility exercise Sophia learned was the hip hinge combined with thoracic rotation, essentially a controlled movement that opened up the entire body. But the real game changer was the world's greatest stretch, Sophia said with a smile. That's actually what it's called. It combines a lunge with rotation and a reach, hitting all the major areas that get tight with age. She demonstrated the basic movement, stepping forward into a lunge position, placing the opposite hand on the ground, and rotating the other arm toward the sky, opening up the chest and spine. I did this every morning. Within weeks, my back pain disappeared. I could tie my shoes without grunting. I could reach into the back seat of my car without my shoulder complaining. Sophia also emphasized the importance of shoulder mobility, especially for people who spend time hunched over phones or computers. Wall angels became my best friend, standing with your back against a wall and sliding your arms up and down like making snow angels. It counteracts all that forward slouching we do and keeps shoulders healthy. She explained how mobility work was different from static stretching. We don't hold stretches for long periods. We move through ranges of motion repeatedly, teaching our bodies that it's safe to move fully. It's dynamic, controlled, and feels amazing. So I started incorporating all three, Sophia continued. Monday, Wednesday, Friday I did strength training: squats, deadlifts, presses, rows, 20 to 30 minutes. Tuesday and Thursday I focused on balance and mobility: single leg work, hip hinges, rotations, maybe 15 minutes. Weekends I walked or hiked. Margaret was taking mental notes. That doesn't sound overwhelming. That's the point, Sophia nodded. After 50, recovery matters more. You don't need to destroy yourself in the gym. Consistency beats intensity. I made it sustainable.
She described the changes that came in waves. First, daily activities got easier. Then I noticed I stood taller, my posture improved naturally. My energy increased. I slept better. Then the bigger things: my bone density scan improved. My doctor was impressed. My balance was better than people half my age. But the most profound changes weren't physical. I felt capable again. Confident. I stopped thinking of myself as getting old and started thinking of myself as getting stronger. When my daughter asked me to go rock climbing for her birthday, I said yes. The old me would have made excuses. Listening to Sophia's story, Margaret felt something shift inside her. The gym suddenly didn't seem so intimidating. "Will you help me?" Margaret asked. "Show me how to start," Sophia smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask." Over the next weeks, Sophia became Margaret's guide. They started with chair squats. Margaret could barely do 5 without her legs shaking. They practiced single leg stands near a wall, Margaret wobbling like a newborn deer. They worked through gentle mobility movements, Margaret discovering how stiff she'd become. It was humbling. It was also exhilarating. Within a month, Margaret noticed she could stand from her couch more easily. Her morning stiffness reduced. She caught herself standing on one leg while waiting in line at the grocery store, amazed she could hold it for 20 seconds. 3 months in, Margaret added light dumbbells to her squats. She could walk heel to toe across her living room with her eyes closed. She touched her toes for the first time in a decade. 6 months later, Margaret looked different. She moved differently. More importantly, she felt different. The woman who'd felt invisible at 52 now felt vital at 53. One morning, she ran into an old friend who stopped in her tracks. "Margaret, you look incredible. What's your secret?" Margaret thought about everything she'd learned. 3 exercises, she said with a knowing smile. Just 3 exercises that changed everything. She thought about the countless people over 50 who believed their best years were behind them, who'd accepted stiffness and weakness as inevitable, who'd given up on feeling young.
And she decided to share her story, hoping that somewhere, someone else standing at the edge of a gym, feeling invisible and uncertain, might hear it and take that first step. Because staying fit and young after 50 wasn't about turning back time. It was about refusing to let time win without a fight. It was about squats that built strength, balance work that built confidence, and mobility training that built freedom. It was about the profound truth that our bodies, at any age, respond to care and challenge. That 50 isn't the end of vitality, it's just the beginning of a different kind of strength. Margaret became like Sophie's a living example that age is just a number, that transformation is always possible, and that sometimes the fountain of youth isn't a mythical spring but a gym mat, a pair of dumbbells, and the courage to begin again.